So this is our first lesson in Unit 3. We start with statistics, and the lesson is on measures on central tendency and spread. So the Minds On section just kind of talks about the term average, and it's a term you're probably familiar with, but what is an average exactly? And what we get to when we look in mathematics, the word average is not used as much as the term central tendency. And we have different measures of central tendency. The mean is the one that's commonly referred to as the average. But we also have the median and the mode, and those could also be considered averages as well. We'll also talk about spread and measures of spread. That's just not mentioned in the Minds On section, but we'll get to that soon. So in the action section, the mean, you've probably done this already in a number of different math courses, but it's the sum of the values in a set of data divided by the number of values. Or you add up all the numbers and you divide by the number of numbers is a way that's also described. So we would use the mean as an average of a data set if the data set doesn't have a lot of outliers. That's usually the mean is negatively affected by the outliers. They actually can drastically change the mean. So if we have data without a lot of outliers, then the mean ends up being a very good average for that data set. The median is the measure of central tendency that's just the middle of the data. And the way we would find the median is we just write the data in order from usually increasing order from lowest to highest. And then the number in the middle is the median. And if we end up with two middle numbers, we add those two together and divide by 2 to find out what the median is. We use the median as an average when we have a skewed data set or if we have many outliers in our data set. And the mode is the value in a data set that occurs most often. So if we have a value that shows up twice or 3 times or more times than any other data set value, we would call that the mode. It's also possible to have multiple modes. If we have something that has 2 values that occur most often, then we would call that a bimodal data set. And we would use the mode as our average when we're looking at categorical data. So categorical data is, of course, countable data that kind of falls into different categories. So if we were talking about a frequency chart, and we're talking about the frequency that something occurs, that could be considered categorical data. If we were talking about people who are choosing their favorite color, that would be categorical data. Now, this first example here, it says to determine the mean, the median, and the mode of the data set listed below. And what you see is done here. The mean is the sum of all the numbers divided by 8, which is because there's eight values listed. And then it's good to round to get kind of one degree of significance. So we round to the nearest tenth if our data goes to the 1 decimal point, and we would round to the nearest hundredths if our data is at the tenths. The median, which you see at the top of the next page, to find that we have to order the data first, and we look at the middle number. And because we have 8 numbers here, there are 2 middle numbers, 185 and 192. So to find the median, we have to find the mean of those 2 middle values. We add them together and we divide by 2. The mode is the number that occurs most often, and you can see 185 occurs twice, so we just say that the mode is 185. Now the measures of spread, these describe how spread out a data set is. Measures of spread that we cover in this course are range, quartiles, and interquartile range. We're also going to look at the box and whisker plot, which is a graph that's used to show the spread of a data set. The range is just the maximum number in a data set subtracted by the minimum number. So that's pretty easy to calculate. The quartiles, though, are 3 values that divide the data set into 4 intervals with equal numbers of data in each quarter. So what this basically means is we have to take a data set, write it in order, and split it into kind of equal intervals of data, so 4 intervals of data. And the quartiles are the points at which the data set is split into those intervals. I'll start with the second quartile because the second quartile is equal to the median of the data. So you usually find the second quartile first. You basically just find the median. And then to find the first quartile, you look at the second half of the data and find the median of that half. And to find the third quartile, you look at the second half of the data and you find the median of that half. The interquartile range is when we take Q3 and we subtract Q1 from it. That's the range of our 2 inner quartiles. And the interquartile range is a measure of how closely the data in a data set clusters around the mean. The box and whisker plot, it's basically it's a graph that we show over top of a number line. The box shows the interquartile range, and the whiskers point out the range of the data. And we'll see what that looks like in this example. So here we have a data set. We're asked to find the quartiles, the range, the interquartile range, and then create a box and whisker plot. So our first step is to order the data and find the second quartile, which is the mean. And in this case, the middle number is the median, rather. Now I said the mean earlier, but the median is 43. So Q2 equals 43. Now from 43, we can take the first half of the data, which is just the 25, the 30, the 32, and the 35, and find the median of that data. We'd get that to be 31. And then for Q3, it's the median of the second half of the data. So 45, 47, 53, 65. We add 47 and 53, divide by 2, we end up with 50. So we found the Q2, Q1, and Q3. We were asked to find the range, which is the maximum number minus the minimum number. So looking at the data, 65 is our max, 25 is our minimum. We subtract those two, we get 40 as our range. And the interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, and that works out to be 19 in this case. So now to draw our box and whisker plot, I recommend, we're going to do this in the support questions, but what I recommend is you draw a box, the box first. So draw vertical lines for at Q1, Q2, and Q3. So at Q1, which is about 31, you would draw a vertical line there. At Q3, you would draw a vertical line at 50. Q2, a vertical line at 43, and then you can complete your box. The 2 whiskers then attach to the box, and they go to the minimum and maximum values. So at the left end of the box, we go from we go down to 31, and from the right end of the box, we go all the way up to 50. Sorry, we go up to 65, not 50. We start from 50, we go to 65. So the support questions, we'll go through these. There's just 3 of them here. The first one, we'll do one of these problems. And we're asked to determine the mean, the median, the mode, the range, the quartiles, and the interquartile range of each data set and make a box and whisker plot of that data set. So let me turn my camera on here, and we'll do the first one. So the first step is to write this in order. So let's start with our lowest number is our 8. And then we have, looks like 10. 8, 10. I've got 14, 14, 15. 14, 14, 15. After 15, looks like I have 18 and then 19. 18, 19. I know we have to find the mean, median, and mode, but we'll do those after. 8, 10, 14, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20. Next number that appears is 20, looks like 29 actually. Then we go to 34, 38, 40, 40, and 42. Did I miss any? 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 numbers. So I've got all 14. So the middle will be 7 and 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here is where we would find our median. So Q2 is equal to 19 plus 20 divided by 2, or 19.5. So that's my Q2 value. Let's also, now we'll look at the first half of the data, which is this half here, which is 8, 10, 14, 14, 15, 18, and 19. The middle number here is 14. So this is my Q1, it's 14. The other half of the data, which is 20, 29, 34, 38, 40, 40, 42. My middle number is the 38, so Q3 equals 38. So now I have my 3 quartiles. I can find my range, which is my maximum number minus my minimum number, so 42 minus 8. And that works out to 34. That's my range. My IQR, which is my interquartile range, would be Q3 minus Q1, or 38 minus 14. And 38 minus 14 would be 24. While we're at it, let's find out what our mode is. I have a 14, 14, and a 40, 40. So my mode is equal to 14, comma 40. So 2 values is my mode. And to find out my mean, I'm going to have the sum of those numbers divided by the number of numbers. So I'll just put my calculator here so you can see on the screen as I add them up. 8 plus 10, there's a bit of light there, plus 14, plus 14, plus 15, plus 18, plus 19, plus 20, plus 29, 34, 38, 40, 40, and 42. And then I divide that value by 14. I end up with 243. 24.357. So I'm going to make that 24.4. That's my mean. Now the last thing I need to do is to make the box and whisker plot. So I have to go from 8 to 42. So using my ruler here, I'm just going to draw out a line. Goes up to 10 centimeters. And I will indicate every 5 centimeters here. I'll just put every 5 millimeters I'm putting a line. So we have to set up our scale. So what I'm doing first is I'm creating my line. Now I need to go from 8 on, so let me put an arrow here and an arrow here. I will start at, let's see, if I start at, well, if I go by twos, so what I'll do is I'll go by twos here. I'll start at, we'll start at 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, sorry, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, and 44. So that covers all of my my range here. Now at Q2, which is 19.5, so 19 would be at the halfway point here. 0.5 would be a bit more in, so I would put in a vertical line. That's my Q2. My Q1 is 14, so I'll put a vertical line right at 14. And my Q3 is 38. Now that I have all of those, I can create my box for my box and whisker plot. So here's my box. Now I have to create the whiskers, and they go up to 42. So 42 is right here. And they go down to 8. So 8 would be right here. So that's my box and whisker plot for this first set of data. No arrows on it, just a point to a point. That covers everything for that. Let me go through the next few problems here. So question 2 and 3. So here it asks, it says a small business employs 8 workers who are paid a salary of $44,000. 3 are paid $50,000. 2 are paid $56,000. The owner takes a salary of $64,000. So we're asked to determine the mean, the median, and mode of this data, and which measure of central tendency best represents the average of this data. So in this case, we have to think about what we've been given. We have essentially some frequencies. So when I put this on, what I do know is that we have 8 workers who are getting paid $48,000. So altogether, let's just write this information out. We have 8 who get $44,000. We have 3 who get $50,000. We get 2 who get $56,000. And we have 1 who gets paid $64,000. So all together, we have, just to show you what I'm doing here, we have 8 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 employees. We have 14 who take a salary. And then of those people, we have to find out what the mean, the median, and the mode are. So there are, to find our mean, we have 8 times 44,000 plus 3 times 50,000 plus 2 times 56,000, and then plus our $64,000 earner. Divide all that by 8 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, and our mean becomes, let's see here, 44,000 times 8 plus 3 times 50,000 plus 2 times 56,000 plus 64,000 divided by 14. We have a mean salary of $48,429. our if we wrote this as a median, rather, we'd have to find out, if we wrote all these in order, let's start with 44. I'm going to drop the thousands. I have to write 44 8 times. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'd write 53 times. 56 twice. And 64. So I have, again, 14 numbers here. So my median would be the 7 and the 8. And that would be this 44 and that 44. So my median is 44. My mode is obviously 44 in this case as well. So we have a mean of 48,000, a median, and a mode of 44. Sorry, I should write these as thousands. So which of these best represents the data on what's the average? While the median and mode are the same value, I would say the mode represents the value best, and we were asked why. So the mode best represents the average, and in this case it's the average salary of the employees, and the reason why we can say is because more people earn this salary than any other salary. And if we look at that again, we have the majority of people, 48 of them get paid 44,000. Then we have this remaining 6 who get paid extra, or a bit more. So that's how we can define that. I'll let you try the used car dealership problem on your own. And then I'm going to show you the quiz in just a minute, and I'll show you another way to solve these problems using Excel. So this is what the quiz looks like for this lesson. And you're going to have 6 questions. So the first one you see, determine the mode of the following set of data. And one good way to do this is to basically, in this case, you're looking for which number occurs most frequently, right? So what I could do is just kind of look through that set of data and see if there's a number that occurs a second or a third time. I'm not seeing one directly, so another thing you could do is you can use a spreadsheet like Excel and enter your data in. And then once your data is entered in, you can organize it to find it, or you can use one of the functions in Excel to find out what your answer will be. So 27, 39, 58, 59, 25, 26, 43, and 49. So there's 17 values. And what I can do now is I can organize this from the smallest to the largest. So I sorted that data. Now, if there's a number that occurs a second time, we'll be able to see it right next to it. And it looks like it's 59 in this case, which is why I wasn't able to spot it. So I have 59 occurring twice. Another way I could have done this, if you type in equals mode, and then you highlight all of the data, and you press enter, it will find the mode for you, 59, directly. So that's the mode for the first problem. Next problem, it says determine the median of the set of data. And we could do this the same way. First, we need to organize the data. So let's start by typing in our data: 78, 98, 67, 82, 86, 95, 75, 85, and 67. And you'll want to organize this data, so sort it. And when we sort the data, we now have it in order from the lowest to the smallest. The median will be the number in the middle, so it'll be this 82 right here, because there's 4 numbers before that, 4 numbers after that. Or we could even type equals median and highlight our data, and it will always find the median for us, 82. And we can even do that. Let me just go backwards. We can do that even before the data is sorted. Equals median, and we can find out that our value is 82 here. Next thing, the next 2 questions, we'll have another one that asks for the median, but this one has 2 middle values, so you have to find the average of those 2 middle values. And we have another one that asks for the mean, and for the one that asks for the mean, it says to find the mean to the nearest hundredth. So let me quickly go through that. We have 4.2, 3.5, 6.6, 3.2, 4.9, 6.2, and 5.0. And if I want to find the mean, I can find the average of this, or we can just do it the manual way. So I'll put a bracket and I'll add each of these numbers together. So the first value, 4.2 plus 3.5 plus 6.6 plus 3.2 plus 4.9 plus 6.2 plus 5. Close the bracket and divide by the number of numbers, which is 7. I end up with 4.8. So in this case, to the nearest hundredths means that I'm going to have to write 4.80 because that's our hundredth. The next 2 problems are going to be a bit larger here, so I'm just going to I'm going to extend the screen here so you can see what it says, and we'll move that off to the side. So for number 5, you'll have to find the range, the quartiles, and the interquartile range. You can write those down in the box. So once you find it, you can find out range equals, and then just type in whatever number it is. Interquartile range equals, and you'll type that in. Before you find the interquartile range, you'll have to find Q1, Q2, and Q3. So you can just type your answers in. I'll be marking this just by looking at it. For the box and whisker plot, do it on paper, take a picture of it, and then email it to me. And that'll be the best way for me to mark that. The last question on this quiz, it asks you to, again, find the mean, median, and mode. So after you do your calculations, you can just type in mean, median, and mode and say what they are. And then when it says which measure of central tendency best represents this average, or the average of this data, and why, you can just type in your explanation in words for that question.